Hey everyone, you are watching the Reloom live stream. Today's stream is all about how to create high converting landing pages with effective copywriting. So our guest for today is Alex Holland from Gorilla Flow. He's going to roast Reloom's AI generated copy, and then he's going to tell us what works, what doesn't work, and explain the principles behind good copywriting. So within the hour, Adam is going to generate a website using Reloom Site Builder as usual. And then with the help of Alex, we're going to create a landing page that'll help convert and drive sales. So we want to showcase the interactions between a web designer and a copywriter and include you in the whole conversation of how, certain layouts of components best presents the messaging from a copywriter's point of view. So this is going to be pretty unique. It's going to be really cool. As usual, if you guys are watching this live, you are seeing this unfold in real time. So make sure you ask all your questions in the chat. We are live in YouTube, and we are also trying this out on X as well, or Twitter. So before we have Adam kick us off, Alex, why don't you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Cheers, Josh. So I'm a conversion copywriter. I've spent 14 years in marketing and sales. For the last 5 years, I've been focused purely on landing pages and website homepages. So I'm hired by a mixture of SaaS companies through to autonomous car brands to explain how their products work and to present and sell them to different types of audience depending on the sales model.
Sweet. Now, you got that intro locked down. That's pretty good. Nice.
Thank you.
He must be good with words.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Adam, I'm excited for this. This is going to be new and fresh and different. So any thoughts on going into the stream?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I wanted to bring on Alex as someone that's an expert with copywriting, but most importantly, the purpose of using Reloom is to build websites that perform well, that are high converting. And I couldn't think of a better person and a better thing to learn to help you to increase your conversions on a website. When you think about a website, it's like 80% text. So if we can get the copyright and the strategy behind it, then hopefully your websites will convert more. So I'm keen to dive into Alex's principles, his method of how he actually arrives at a design, and then collaborate with him and bring that design to life. So I'm excited. This is something different, and I'm keen to learn and jump in and hopefully share some knowledge.
Sweet. All right. I just want to say hi to some people in the chat here. We have Peter, Brent, and then those watching on X. Make sure you say hi. So, okay, let's jump into it. Adam, let's share your screen and have you set up first, and then we can dive into Alex showing us kind of the principles behind really good copywriting.
Sounds good. So I think, we wanted to actually try and make this feel as real as possible. And we wanted to set up basically a company that we can design and build a website around. And so we've made it up. It's a fictional company called Time Hero AI. And what Time Hero is, it's an intelligent time management app designed specifically for solopreneurs. Instead of just being another to-do list or calendar app, acts like sort of like a smart assistant. It understands your goals and commitments. It builds personalized schedules for you every day, and it continuously adapts to your user behaviors. Here we've just listed like some core features that we'll call out on the website. Also the target market, like who this website is speaking to. Some things around the brand identity, because we'll also be designing the visuals for this and the brand for this as well. And just a little bit about the competition. I know Alex, this was something that Alex requested for us to have some, insight on the competition, because that's going to be important in coming up with how we position the copy. So that's a little bit about Time Hero. We've also prepped a marketing document or messaging strategy doc that Alex will take us through. And this whole method is awesome. So keen to dive into that, and also have prepped some assets. So just have some UI mocks, and also have some AI generated textures. And we've also created a prompt that we can use the new ChatGPT image generation to create icons. So we've created a prompt, and these are just examples of some icons, but we'll adapt to whatever the copy is. We'll be able to adapt, and I'll take you through how we can create these icons using ChatGPT's OpenAI's new image generation. So they're the things we have. But to begin with, what we're going to do is we're just going to create or generate a website just out of the box with Reloom, and we'll see what that looks like, and then we'll roast it, and then we'll sort of approach it from how Alex would approach it, with AI still, but like from a copywriter's perspective. So yeah, that's the plan for today.
Okay, sweet. Cool. So you gonna get that prompt ready?
Yeah. So it's basically what I've done. I've just dumped all the information from this page into the sitemap prompt. Sitemap prompt is basically covering the entire website, like all the information across all the pages. It references the sitemap prompt. So it's just a good place to add all the information about the company. So we're generating the sitemap here, and we're only going to be using we're only going to be focusing on the homepage for now. So it's just the landing page, homepage for now.
Nice.
And we'll jump into the wireframe, see what Reloom cooks up.
All right, get your roasting skills ready, Alex.
All good. Just to check, can you guys hear me clearly?
Yeah. Apparently
Sweet.
people can hear you from the right side of the audio, but that's okay. That's all right.
Give me a shout if I need to change anything. Am I good to start roasting?
Yeah, let's
You
do
are.
Sweet.
Let's
Okay,
do
cool.
it.
So from the top here, I'm looking at transform your time management of AI. I'm not a fan of including AI in any kind of headlines, really, to be honest. There was a time 3 or 4 years ago when AI was a differentiator. I could buy a toothbrush, I could buy an electric razor. I walked around the supermarket the other day. My girlfriend's a designer, and I joked to her, I could buy products in the supermarket with AI, and literally your toothbrush has it now. So saying it's got AI, it would be kind of unusual if it didn't. The word transform, pretty much every single SaaS product on the market can claim to transform your workflow in some kind of way. The golden rule is if I could copy paste a headline onto a competitor's page, it's a bad headline, and transform your time management, you could paste that into any kind of time management app, therefore it's weak. Your headline should be unique to your product and your value proposition. So what I'd want to do is break down what does transforming look like for this particular product, what is the rest of the industry doing, what's wrong with that, and how do we fix it? And what's wrong with it might be for a specific audience. Straight underneath that, I want to get a social proof quote right underneath the fold. So the thing to bear in mind with conversion rate optimization, CRO, is a set of principles. You can't guarantee anything will work, but you hear, you get certain principles that tend to be fairly consistent. And getting a customer quote right underneath the hero section is one of the most proven principles out there. So I always want to see a customer quote with a picture of a person next to them, as high up as possible. Underneath that, we're jumping straight into features. Now, for a startup, I like to start with pain points. So the really, a key question you have to ask yourself is, what percentage of people who land on my website already know who what my brand is, what our values are, and what our products do? If I go to Nike, if I go to Stripe, if I go to Apple, these are different companies, but in every single case, 99% of people landing on that website know the brand, know the products. That changes everything. For a startup, it might be less than 5% of people who know why you exist. I'm not going to use dating analogies because they're a bit cheesy, but you could probably guess, think of a few metaphors here for, you don't know somebody, you need to build up rapport. And a pain point section is great for explaining to people why your product exists, what kind of problems you solve, using that to demonstrate you have expertise and credibility at solving those problems. What I typically do is say use a cluster of perhaps 3 micro pain points and then 1 macro pain point to capture those before we then jump into introducing the solution.
Now,
so
Alex,
here,
I wonder, would it be appropriate for us to zoom out first to go over some high-level principles of copywriting from your end?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'd say from one of the most important things, we're looking at a homepage here. People use the expression homepage, landing page, and sales page interchangeably. And I'm as guilty of doing that as anybody. I call myself a landing page copywriter. I actually hardly write landing pages. A real landing page is one of those capture pages where you just have an email capture form.
Okay.
But the entire industry's decided that we call everything landing pages, so I kind of roll with it. What we typically deal with are 2 things: sales pages and home pages. So if I'm running Google Ads, I want to have adverts pointing to a dedicated sales page that exists purely to convert. The thing people get wrong with home pages is they focus on conversion and sales. When you have a website homepage, people are landing here at a variety of different points in a purchase journey. Some of them are ready to buy and they need to be able to do that. But a lot of people have just discovered your brand for the first time, and we don't want to sell hard. The point of a homepage is to explain the product, explain why you exist, explain the purpose of your business and your product, and walk people through a typical user experience. If they're ready to buy, they're ready to buy. If they're not, they're not. We're not pushing hard for a sale on a homepage.
Do you have anything to show on your screen to illustrate that at all? Or
yeah, I do.
Any notable things?
Seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, I have just 2 seconds.
Real high level here.
Yep, I've got a. This is for cold.email. This is a website I recently developed in conjunction with a website design agency based in Toronto.
Okay.
So we
nice.
have
Go
here
Canada.
At the top. Yep, great design teams in Toronto. So I'm not going to get too into the weeds here.
Yep.
But the issue a cold email agency has is they're competing in a hyper competitive market, and you cannot just tell people what your product does. We all get spammed heavily with cold email agencies. These guys are genuinely fantastic at what they do. We had to find a way to make that stand out. So we just tell people your cold email sucks, hire our experts to build a system. And what I did was in the very top, in the explainer section, I poke fun at the rest of the way the industry works. Most people use Apollo. I say we find customers that will never appear in Apollo. So the idea is if anybody's got any sense of how cold email works, they instantly have a sense of, oh shit, what am I doing wrong? I'm using Apollo. There's a better way of doing it. You can see here we jump straight in with social proof above the fold. And then we go straight into pain points. Does this sound like your last cold email campaign? Generic leads, lazy personalization tactics, and clueless agencies that sell laundry lists of marketing services. We only need one of those pain points to hit home. Yeah.
I'd be keen on like focusing, because I think we're gonna get through this. I'd be keen on focusing on strategy and how we can like draw some of these learnings from this particular example into the Time Hero example. I'm just conscious of time. I really want to like
Sure.
get this website over the line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I would say look at this start with a pain point section essentially. Any homepage project, I always start with the pain points. If you nail the pain points, the rest of the website's easy. If you screw the pain points up, it will be very hard.
Got it.
So I would look to this section for inspiration.
All right. Focus on the pain points and go from there.
Basically, what we have here is, I mean, it's a features section. It's just going straight into what are the features. And then we have how it works. What are your thoughts on like explaining how it works? Like, is that something that you would typically do, and like in what scenario?
Absolutely. I always walk people through the product use. Typically I do it sequentially, so I'll pick 3 to 5 steps. The first one might be how quick and easy it is to get started. Then I might have feature cluster A, feature cluster B, and then I'll wrap up with tactical benefits. So this is what you'll get out of a product over 3 to 6 months, and strategic benefits, this is what you might get over 2 to 3 years. So how easy it is to get started, the core use cases, and then show them how it's going to help them to grow their business faster, how to help them maybe have a nicer quality of life. So you're painting a picture of a future for them.
Got it. Awesome. All right, so I think for this is like we can compare this. This is what the AI has generated. At the end, we can circle back and compare the two. But we do have a file which was inspired by Alex's. Alex has a Figma kit, and he has a bunch of templates that he uses, and these templates basically play into some of his principles and frameworks around copy. So we've prepped a template here, which people watching, you guys can reference and use in your own projects. And this is what we're going to use to be sort of the base of the wireframe. But I guess we could take a step back, Alex. Like before you even jump into like writing any copy, can you take us through like your process and like before like the marketing strategy doc that we were sharing, the messaging strategy doc, sorry. I'm keen to learn more about that and for you to, sort of explain your process before you even jump into a Figma or into writing any copy at all.
Yeah, I like to use a simple analogy, a family-friendly one. We are cooking food. 3 steps. We want great ingredients, we want a great cooking process, and we want to have nice presentation. Now, the AI copywriting startup industry is working backwards. They started off doing presentation. Presentation is what kind of words should we use, what kind of language should we use. Let's use active tense language, let's use impactful verbs. That's fun, but that's very surface level. At present, most of the AI copywriting startups are at the middle stage of cookery. Let's use frameworks. For example, a framework could be the product that delivers this benefit for this audience. This is a good place to be at. This is intelligent. What almost nobody is doing in the AI startup copywriting scene is thinking about the ingredients. And when I'm turning up to cook, I want really good ingredients. And those ingredients are customer intelligence, things I know about my customers. Now, this is the model from Jennifer Havis from her book, Finding the Right Message, that most copywriters I know reference.
Alex, can you zoom in here?
Typically, yeah, sure, absolutely. Quickly.
Or pinch, or yeah, just like that. That'd be great.
There we go.
Yep.
So typically,
Perfect.
I either interview 10 or 15 customers, or maybe survey several hundred, and we're looking for the struggle. So the pain points they're experiencing that led us to try our product, and these help us to write the pain point section. We then have solutions, so checking in with them on what kind of use case, what kind of job do you expect the product to do. You'd be surprised how often startups find out that people are using their product for slightly different purposes than what they intended. The next is hesitations. So what kind of worries they might have felt before actually using a product. If we know they were worried about the cost or worried that it was technical, if it would be too hard to migrate, then we can actually mitigate those in advance, and we can reassure customers throughout the process they don't need to have to worry about these things. We then have awareness levels. So what kind of awareness do they have of competing solutions in the market? It's really important that we understand what they're comparing us to. And it's worth bearing in mind, we aren't just being compared to other SaaS products. The default for most people is Google Sheets and WhatsApp. A lot of our customers aren't using any product at all, and we have to convince them to pay for one in the first place. We then have differentiators. So differentiators is the reasons that our customers chose us over the competition. Now, this is an absolute gift in terms of angles we can pick. This helps us to choose angles for our headlines, for our copy. And finally, success. So what does life look and feel like? So we're inviting both business outcomes, but also emotions and feelings, even for a B2B product that we've been given. One of my favorite examples, I work with a North American real estate SaaS app, and they replaced 5 or 6 badly stitched together apps, one mobile app. And we spoke to their reps, and they said, instead of having to work all weekend and upsetting their partner, they're able to finish work early on a Friday, go home and take the kids camping. So we could say, get your weekends back. So
Nice.
Getting these sort of emotional, touchy-feely benefits out of a dry business app. No one cares about ROI. People care about their families. People care about their health. If you can connect a business app to making someone's life better, to helping them to get to their kid's birthday party, that blows any kind of business benefit out of the water.
Yeah,
Sounds
awesome.
good.
Hey Alex, how do you approach the questions when you're interviewing these customers? Are you literally asking them the questions in the messaging strategy doc?
Yeah, so the way I frame it, if I speak to my client and I say, can we speak to your customers? If we speak to the customers and say, we want to make a kick-ass website to help us make lots of money, obviously nobody's going to help. What we do instead, and this is honest, is we frame it as a product feedback exercise. I honestly get great results without offering anybody free Amazon vouchers or anything like that. We just say, hey, you're using our product. We'd love to speak to you and get your feedback. Your feedback will help us to shape the future of our product. Most people are stoked. They're paying to use your product. They're paying $50, $100 a month plus. They love to give their feedback.
That's awesome. And do you have like a script you go in with where it has like all the questions that you'd ask that align to this?
Just V6. I just use the same ones each time. Just that are written underneath these headings here.
So these
and
ones.
then I've got various ways of dicing it up. What I often do is ask, and this works particularly well for surveys when I've got a few hundred responses. Can you rank the top themes? So I can see here for our project right here, the top themes are cognitive overload, fragmented systems, rigid plans that collapse under pressure, and so on for each of these different sections. And I then do the same thing, and I ask ChatGPT to rank the keywords. So we can see here.
Do you mind zooming in a little bit there?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There you go.
So some of our keywords we've got here, we've not got a lot of volume. We've only got 10 interviews. You can imagine these numbers would be bigger if we had more interviews. Burning out, that's a nice impactful expression I could grab there. Energy, yeah. So there's a few generic words here, but I tend to filter out the more emotional, impactful ones that are there.
So based on the interview, you draw those words, and then organize into these categories here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using my own imagination as well, but I'll skim through this and pick out words that stand out as well.
I love
I'm
that.
sure
That's
there's
such a methodical way of speaking their language because it's coming from like them. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Really cool. I'm sure there's an AI tool where you can then transcribe the interview and then turn those words and count them and somehow organize into these categories. Something to consider.
Well, Alex actually uses ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
Are you using? Is that how you did it, Alex?
I actually switch between all of them depending on which day of the week you check in on. One of them's overtaken. I use ChatGPT a lot. Claude's good for copy as well. And then a really good one is Google Notebook LM is awesome. You can just throw in videos and it will transcribe the videos, and then you can ask questions about the content of the video. So that's pretty sweet.
Nice. All right, correct me
Sweet.
if I'm wrong, Alex, but I think next what we're gonna do, now we have that messaging strategy doc, that's gonna be like our source of truth. Now we can also look at this template that Alex has put together on like the most ideal flow of information. So maybe we can start there and then go into each section, and we'll use that doc and the words in that doc and write copy. So I can run through, actually, Alex, maybe you can run through the wireframe just at a high level, and then we can start digging into each section.
Real high level.
Yes, high level. Yep, we have a hero section here, headline explainer, CTA buttons. We then drop in our logos here as well. Don't use big brands like Apple and Microsoft because no one takes you seriously. Use smaller brands for the more realistic. Use a customer quote above a fold that should be very accessible and high level. Further down, we can use more technical customer quotes. This should be a very impactful, emotional one.
Now,
three industry problems.
real quick here on
Yeah.
the testimonials. You mentioned before that it's good to focus on one as opposed to multiple quotes. Is that right? Can you tell us why?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of customer wall of love. It's a real waste of customer testimonials because it requires a ton of cognitive load to sift through them and find a customer testimonial that's relevant to you. What I tend to do is drop them through the page one at a time. And my favorite sequence is I make a bold claim in a headline and back it up with a quote. If I tell you that I'm going to deliver 40x more sales, I want to have a quote underneath from the customer saying we got 40x more sales.
Cool.
It's always just back and forth. Make a claim,
So-
back it up.
Yeah, so for me, like some of the considerations from a design perspective, well, I make this feel like it's going to be related, because the pattern that Alex has established here is we'll have like feature B, talk about feature B, and then we'll have a testimonial that backs it up. So, you know, part of, I think color is going to play a part, and also layout as well. So yeah, that's something I'm thinking as a designer. If that's important, we want to make those sections feel related to each other. Yeah.
Nice.
All right, this is where we have the problems. So the pain points.
So 3 problems, 3 particular pain points. What I tend to do, if you remember, I said earlier that we tend to have two clusters: people who are using a competitor's product and we want to poach them, and we have people who are not paying for any product and we want to convince them to get their wallets out and start paying for one. So my first problem is usually one, talking to people who don't use a product at all, i.e. you need a time management app. And problems 2 and 3 I typically dedicate to you're using a time management app and it sucks, and that's what this is what it looks and feels like. So I cover in those 3 problems that spectrum of people from low solution awareness to high solution awareness. And then I summarize the industry problem here. I always like to visualize when I'm writing that my customer, or my prospect, has 10 tabs open for competing products, and I have to get them to close those other tabs. Too many people are writing, particularly in hyper competitive spaces, as if no one's comparing their product to someone else's product. You have to bear in mind they're comparing you to 5 or 10 products. And the pain point section is a great way to throw shade of the rest of, tell them what sucks about those products, so they just close those tabs. Even if they whittle it down to 3 instead of 10, you're getting much closer to a sale then.
I like how
Then
you've
Yep.
one of your principles, Alex, is like, imagine that they've opened like 3 tabs. Like they're looking at your website and there's like 3 other tabs open. Like that helps you realize like the reality of when someone's looking at a website and looking at your page. It's actually in the context of other competitors. So it's important to differentiate.
I've had 3 startups in the same week reach out to me with an AI sales chatbot. Every single one of their websites was written as if they were the first AI sales chatbot to ever exist. You have to always visualize this competitive element you're trying to stand out.
Yeah, awesome. Let's keep
Then
this at a high
introduce a
level because I
solution.
reckon we'll get into
Yep.
the weeds once we just like skim
Yep.
through this, just to give the audience kind of like the overall like sort of flow.
So problem, then solution. We try and keep that as high level and as accessible and digestible as possible. Then walk them through, I'd say probably 3 to 5 steps. Onboarding, feature cluster feature cluster A, feature cluster B, then a midway call to action, and then after that, typically we'll look at if the first part of a website is trying to convert business users who are interested in a product and fairly optimistic and enthusiastic, they haven't hit the call to action. That's usually because they've got some kind of worries or concerns. So the second part of the page is where I deal with more cynical, unsure, technical buyers, and I'll deal with sort of more technical questions here, like, have you got specific worries about a particular integration? Or in this case, we might funnel them through to a dedicated sales page for their exact industry, where we can get into more detail about how our product helps engineers or how our product helps agencies. So there's various different sections I use here, but if we go back to our
What are
risk
your thoughts
mitigation,
on
yeah.
What are your thoughts on like a frequently asked questions section where you can like just address a bunch of questions?
Yeah, so somebody asked early on about SEO, and that's a great question. There's a couple of answers there. FAQs are great for SEO. So what I don't do and what I respond very poorly to is if an SEO consultant asks me to try and shove keywords into headlines, I don't do that, and I will never compromise the conversion journey for SEO. The two things I do are FAQs are wicked because you can go and shamelessly put long tail SEO key phrases as clumsy and as shamelessly as you like down in the FAQs folded into accordions, and you could put in 1,000 or 1,500 words of relevant rank copy. I don't write that. That's for a content writer, not a conversion copywriter. FAQs are also great if you have a specific question that, let's say, 5 to 10% of your customers who are really technical care about, and if you put that technical content in the main homepage, you'll bore most people to sleep. But engineers care about it. Put it down in the FAQ, and technical people will go and look for it, but you don't water down and dilute that narrative. The other quick SEO tip I wanted to share, and I love this one, is we have what we call kickers. Some people call them eyebrows. The small piece of text above a headline. I love these. They are so useful. If I go and use a kicker or an eyebrow to name the section, say integrations, that frees me up to write a headline about the value of the integrations add without having to necessarily use the word integrations again. You could have features in it. You could have whatever you want to put in it. And when I'm in the hero section, I will always name the product in plain, simple English, nothing fancy in the hero section. What you can also do, because people forget that your style classes and your SEO classes should be detached. So you could have a kicker set to an H1 SEO class or an H2. So if you say, for example, want to have a particular keyword, put the SEO keyword into the kicker, set it to an H2, and then you can have a headline as plain text but big underneath, or an H2 as well, depending on how you want to do it.
Okay.
Awesome. That's cool. We'll get into that probably once we get it into Webflow. We can start to look at like some of the SEO little tips and tricks. One last thing. So we have something I find really interesting. We have the CTA section, but then obviously if they haven't clicked that, they have doubts. And so I like this distinction you've made of like grouping some things that like handle those doubts and answer more questions. That's really clear to me. Would you do like a CTA sandwich? I've never done multiple CTAs on a homepage, but would you do like a bit of a sandwich so that maybe the doubts have been answered here and then it's time to action? Alternatively, I think as a designer, I would probably just make sure that this CTA up the top is like floating and always in view, so that once they have answered those doubts, they can action on it. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Floating nav bar is, and I've worked with several high-level conversion rate optimization specialists. A floating nav bar is a really good tactic. I would highly recommend doing that. What you can also do as well is you could get in 2 or 3 social proof points in the nav bar too.
Oh,
A couple of like really big wins you might have had, you can get those into the nav bar. And to answer your previous question, I tend to mix up the CTAs. My midway CTA, I tend to write more for a low-tech business user. My final CTA, which is after the technical objection section, I tend to try and make that a little bit more technical. It's just good to come in at different angles, mix up. I have the same CTA each time, but the headline's different.
Yeah. Would you change the design, like if you want it to feel different as well? Or
No, I'm a big fan, and
guess
I'm
it's-
slightly overstepping my mark as a copywriter here. I feel like you should play
Watch
around with
yourself.
angles. Yeah, but I feel like when it comes to like the button text and the button design, I feel like it should be consistent. Like we're asking them to do
Oh,
the
for
same thing
sure.
repeatedly, but with a different headline each time, but the same button is my take.
okay.
Yeah.
Can I kind of confirm something here in terms of the approach of the overall wireframe structure or the content? It seems like a landing page is like a conversation. This is how I usually design my landing page. It's conversational UI, as in you're answering, what do you do, who are you, why should I believe you, and so how do I do it? And so right away, this is kind of like the product. Okay, this is the what, and then you go down. It's like, and it seems like the social proof and the who you're associated with is kind of sprinkled throughout. So the answer's the who, and then this answers more of the what, like what are the problems, and then okay, what abilities am I getting with your service or your product? Okay, so that answers more of the what, and then eventually we start going to the how on like talking about the features and the abilities, and then eventually it's like, okay, I'm sold. Then the CTA is kind of like, well, are you convinced? And then if I have objections, then I kind of, I have further points to like further win me, and then followed by more FAQs and maybe some social proofs, and then have another call to action at the end. So it seems like a conversation. Yeah, is that how you kind of approach it?
Yeah, just to be slightly nitpicky, like for homepage specifically, for a homepage, absolutely, it's like respectfully guiding someone around a car, showing them how the car works, showing them all features, but not going for a hard sell. Whereas if I'm hard to do a sales page, you ramp up the gear slightly. If you're pointing a specific advert on Facebook ads or Google ads to a specific sales page, I'm a little bit more aggressive then. The other thing as well is it comes down to the audience. And for SaaS is not an industry where people respond well to being hard sold. You can look at some fitness products where that works better. I personally don't like that game. That's why I don't do it. I work in SaaS because it's a more respectful pitch generally. You don't want a hard sell.
Sweet.
So it's really good to understand who your audience is and how they respond to pitches. Yeah, that's great.
Massively, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, lucky we have a SaaS in front of us. So next steps is I'm going to get the AI. So basically what I've done here is I've taken the principles from Alex, created this template, but I've also added a bit of a copywriting, a bit of a prompt here that's going to help guide the copywriting. And so I can generate the copy, and then from there we're going to get it to a point that it is better. So this is kind of like AI is going to sort of get you to our point, but this is going to start to show, okay, how can we take this to another level? Basically, how can we improve what AI has suggested here? So this is the part I'm keen on, getting into the weeds on
All right.
now. Alex, kind of like talk me through, feel free to jump in and like edit the copy as well. Talk me through like looking at this right now, how could we make it better? Based on the words it's using, and the overall messaging.
We've got a couple of different routes we can go down. So the first one is to simply define what transform looks like. The second one is to just point to the specific audience. So we've established that Time Hero is built for solopreneurs. It's flexible, it's not rigid and robotic, and it adapts to people's life. So we could say something like, the time management app for solopreneurs. We could then save a time management app. We could potentially add a kicker at the top that adds solopreneurs there. We could say, for example, we've been given a pain point here as well. Adapts when your work schedule changes.
Nice.
Now, at what point do you feel like it's too wordy or maybe too short?
Right. So right now, I'm trying to slim this down.
Yep.
So typically what happens is I write a wordy headline and then I cut it down and replace longer words with shorter words. Time management app that adapts when your day falls apart, for example. We could point to a particular problem they might have there.
You could even do the app. Like, do you think time management is key here?
Yeah, potentially. Manage your solo business, even when things fall apart, even when your day falls apart.
So, Alex, when you're working on projects, how often do you A/B test? How often are you running like different versions of a landing page or a homepage?
So that's down to my client. In an ideal world, we do that quite heavily. There are the amount of SaaS companies that honestly test as much as they should is quite small. But yeah, I've got clients that hire me. We do ongoing optimization. I would say that's a minority of cases, sadly. Most people treat copywriting as a transaction and move on quickly, but there's a small number that do a really good job of testing, and it's really worth it. They really get the benefits from doing that. But unfortunately, a lot of people still treat it as more of a transaction.
Got it.
Okay, so
now I definitely had the similar experience. It kind of baffles me. It's something that at Reloom, like, we're sort of exploring, like, why don't more people do it? What if that was easy to do? That would be amazing, because then we can like put all this thinking to an objective test and see which actually converts more.
So often I come up with just pointing to the audience can help a lot as well. Just describing the specific audience you serve is one way of standing out that's quite easy.
Cool.
Just going back to
in terms of the supporting copy, what do you tend to put in this supporting copy, and like what's the relationship between the headline and the supporting copy?
Typically, to flesh it out more details, we can include a couple of the technical details, a couple of the features. So one of the frameworks I like to talk about is features, abilities, and benefits. People talk about features and benefits. Abilities is more important. So what's the ability that our product gives people? And I typically focus on the ability in the headline, and then I will focus on the features and benefits more in the section underneath.
Got it.
So I would say something like stay on top of your schedule, even when your day falls apart.
So you're kind of addressing the pain points a little bit as well. Now, Peter is saying here, in my process, I include for who. And so I wonder in the heading, should we address the
so what I
audience
typically
as
do
well?
is get that into the kicker as well and the explainer. So I might get that into the kicker. I sometimes get into the headline.
Yeah.
In this case, I've chosen to focus slightly more on a pain point.
Got it.
So you could say Time Hero AI is a personal productivity assistant. We've got it down here actually.
Yeah. When you say
gotta add
kicker,
that
you mean
kicker
the
to the component.
eyebrow, right? Is that what
Yeah,
the kicker
same
means? Yeah.
thing.
Got it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
that.
Adam, let's scroll down a bit as he's figuring that out. Let's look at some of the ways the eyebrow, like how do you define the eyebrow here? Like it looks like if you scroll down, you got the problem here. So that's a good way
Yeah.
to quickly summarize this section, essentially. And then you got the solution.
Yeah. Yeah. I think well, actually what could be interesting is whilst Alex plays around with some copy, I can start getting ahead on the design.
Yeah.
Um,
We got 14
so-
minutes, so let's try to
yeah.
move quick on this.
Sounds good. So we have some custom, I mean, I don't want to write any copy here, but what I do know is that this feature section is going to talk about a feature called Smart Task Prioritization, which basically is input your tasks and let AI decide what to do and when. And so what I'm going to put here is this asset. So let me just get my Zoom. Sorry,
Love
my
this.
Zoom on my Mac is like broken. Anyway, so we have basically we have like a illustration showing AI sort of scheduling for you.
Yep.
That's the first one, smart task prioritization, and then feature B will be the auto calendar sync and blocker. And what that does is it books work blocks and meetings directly in your calendar.
Okay.
And so we have basically AI rescheduling
That's
illustration
beautiful.
here. Yeah. Shout out to Jono who helped me with this.
Hey, Jono.
Jono,
I was gonna ask, did you use AI to generate this? Nope, you got the ultimate AI, Jonathan.
yeah, Jono's an AI.
Yeah.
We actually used Untitled UI for the kit, and then
Nice.
generated some of the textures with AI. So it's a
Nice.
combination of human and AI.
Guys, if you
then
haven't
we
checked out
have-
Untitled UI, please look into it. Game changer.
Yeah, 100%. Then we have, I think I've gotten this bit mixed up. Smart task prioritization is probably this one.
Okay.
And then this one is the task engine.
Yep.
And then, anyway, these are some assets. And then when it comes to the integrations, we have basically like the things that it integrates with. We've also prepped some assets. So this one for the hero, we've gone with something that shows, the core feature.
Yep.
And also like paints the picture of like how it's made for a solo entrepreneur.
Okay.
And it's going to save you a bunch of time. So we want to make sure that comes out. But ultimately, we want to know what the copywriting says and then reflect that. So
Yeah, okay.
maybe we'll tweak some things based off what Alex arrives at. That's typically like would be the best approach.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Now-
then we have some icons as well.
Okay. Now let's talk about the interaction between the coordination between you as the designer and Alex as the copywriter. Do you wait for his headline first, or like, how's that relationship work? Do you say, hey, look,
I'd be
I have a
curious to hear
visual
what
of
Alex
this?
thinks.
Yeah. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah. Well,
What was the question, sir? I was just deep into the copy there regarding.
Yeah. He was in the zone. In terms of balancing the title, the copywriting, and the messaging with the visuals and the design. Because obviously we got an image placeholder here below. And Adam, if you want to share your screen, we have a beautiful showcase of like this calendar SaaS app. So what's your process? Do you come up with the headline first and then have the image support that? Or is it the other way around?
It's funny actually, because we've come from different angles. I'm a copywriter, you're a designer, but actually the way that these wireframes look is exactly how I work. My own Figma pack copy base is very similar to this in terms of appearance. I have the copy. I show people this is where an image might go. So I use Google Glyphs, and I'll just put in like a rough picture of a credit card. I'll put in a rough picture of a calendar, just to hint at what the design might be, and nothing more than that. And then the designer can take care of that afterwards. I don't
Okay,
think
cool.
you should
Yeah,
get too
I'm
into the
the same.
design. I like to use
yeah.
expression content architecture. I create content architecture and then hand that to
100%.
designer.
That's the purpose of the wireframe view in Reloom. we've spoken about like we're going to be extending this and have the design view where you're looking at like the visuals. But the purpose of the wireframe view is to just think about the content architecture. And I've found that you get the best results when you've done the copy. In reality though, that doesn't always happen because you don't have the luxury of working with a copywriter. So you're relying on the client to come back with copy, and that takes time and you want to move ahead. And so in an ideal world, I would let Alex write the copy and then be informed by what Alex writes. But there is a zigzag, but that's typically, that would typically be like the in my opinion, the best approach.
Right. So right now he's in the problem section, and then he's working on a headline.
Awesome.
So the first one here, you
talk
struggle to manage your...
through this.
So the first one here, you struggle to manage your work schedule. So that pain point is written for somebody with a super low level of product awareness. They don't even use a time management app. The second one, I've thrown shade at Sunsama. Sunsama forces you to schedule ahead. Motion was built for bigger teams. I can then flesh out what that looks like in the copy underneath that. And then the macro pain point is you need a work schedule that was designed for solopreneurs. That talks to all of the people across the spectrum underneath. And I only need people to identify one of these three sub pain points for this macro pain point to hit home. And yes, we can, and we will slag off other people's products.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's savage, man. I love it.
I mean, as long as you're kind of objective, you know, I mean, we're not lying.
Yeah, all right, totally. Guys, our time is almost up. So how do we progress here?
Time's not up, Josh. We got time. But yeah, let's fly.
Speaking of time schedules.
Yeah, so what
we can at least give a solution down, at least.
Yeah, the good thing about this is that Alex can work on some copy. Now I can switch over to the style guide builder and start showing some design, and then we can return back to the copy, and Alex can talk through that. I think that's probably the best way to move forward.
Yeah, perfect.
I might just go ahead and I don't know if that's helpful, Alex, but do you want me to just leave the text in here, or do you want me to generate copy so you have something to work with? Whatever's easier for you. I don't really mind.
I'm just loading up the tab again. I'm happy to keep working with what's here. Yeah,
awesome. Cool. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start looking at, I'm just gonna make this the home page. So
and again, guys, this is a great way to collaborate with team members while the copywriter is working and doing his thing. Within Reloom, we got the designer in the style guide builder hashing out the styles, and so they're working concurrently, and it speeds up the workflow. And you know, you could hop on a Zoom call and collaborate and go back and forth, and so it just shortens the time to produce this amazing website that generates leads.
All right, I'm just gonna get. Okay, well, I've kind of gone against what Alex has advised. I've got the biggest companies in the world.
Hey, you know what? So I wonder if you can use ChatGPT to generate some local. Yeah, there you go. There's a local brand.
So I just want to clarify, I think you can get in a few of the big brands as long as there's a mix. If people just have that same copy-paste Microsoft Apple, it looks a bit cheesy, but if you've got some cool, interesting brands mixed in, then it looks credible.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so for these images, you'll struggle to manage. This is where I'm going to jump into the OpenAI image generation. So
nice.
Let me jump into that and get my prompt. All right, so I've prepped a prompt. Basically, I'll walk through the prompt at a high level. So here's the prompt. Basically, getting it to design an icon that looks like these icons. So I have these icons ready to go, and this actually started by finding an icon these icons were generated with AI, but I found an icon, I think it was on this website that I like the look of. It was
nice.
this icon that I started with.
Okay.
And then I sort of worked backwards. I told AI, can you describe this icon in words? And then based off that, create a new icon for, to describe like a checklist, to describe a clock, etc. So that's what this part of the prompt is doing, and also this above part as well. And then this part is just going to help me create, basically suggest what icon should be used for the copy. And then the second part is based off that, generate the icon. So
That's so
I'm
good.
going to submit this. So this prompt's going to get me going in the right direction.
All right. Now scroll up a
and
bit,
then-
guys. You guys can pause the video and just take a look at that prompt. That's where the gold is.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go here and I'm just going to copy the copy here.
Okay.
And then I'm going to paste that in. And so now AI
Wow.
should tell me like, okay, calendar with alert. All right, it's generating now.
That is great.
Hopefully this will be built into Reloom soon.
Can you scroll up again and show that prompt in the full height? There you go. There you go. Take a snapshot,
So
guys.
explaining.
This is where it's at. That is such a good prompt. Wow.
All right. I might get it to create a few other versions.
Okay. Let's switch over to Alex here. Where is he at? He's in the feature section.
Yeah, we've got solution down. I'm fairly happy with problem and solution. Features is coming along. What I tend to do is I write fairly generic placeholder headlines, and then I sharpen them up and make them more specific. So that's, I often call them placeholder headlines. The first version that goes in is a bit generic, and then you try and tighten them up and pull out and tease out angles that are a bit more unique to that product. Usually by looking at customer feedback. So I'm just, in my other tab, I'm just looking through all of my customer feedback to pull out angles, emotions, feelings, differentiators. That's one of the most important words for people to use is differentiator. The things that make our product stand out against the competition. You can see our two feature headlines at the moment are a bit vague. They don't really smack you in the face. Whereas I feel like the problem and solution sections at the moment are a bit more differentiated.
Okay.
You know,
Very
you can
good.
see why you choose our product over the competition if you're a solopreneur.
Yeah, that's great. I love how you're pulling in those principles you had in that spreadsheet, and then you're incorporating all those elements into the copy of the landing page.
Yeah, I mean, I
framework.
can sometimes spend 3 or 4 hours on a pain point section. So we're doing everything in about 15 minutes here. So it's
Yeah.
not, you know, this is just slapping stuff against a wall for now. But
Yeah.
it's, yeah, you can kind of get an idea for how it looks.
And so why do you think it takes a couple hours for you to refine the messaging there? Like, what's your thought process? What are you clashing through? What's that process
Pain
like?
points, pain points section is the hardest and most important thing. I'll spend 3 or 4 hours on that because we have a whole ton of pain points, usually too many to fit in. And whatever I do, I'm going to lose some. And it's how can I get in as many important pain points as possible. Sometimes I'll combine 2 or 3 without minimizing the amount of customers I lose. So it's about getting the hierarchy right, talking to the right pain points. Because if you get that wrong, you're always going to lose some customers, and I want to minimize how many we don't talk to.
Okay.
And you have to think about the strategy as well. How are we presenting our product? How do those pain points lead us to present the product in a different way? Often what I have is my customers very often have one audience segment that we own and are doing great with, and another 2 audience segments they want to reach out to but don't currently work with. So that's often a balancing act. We need to keep on board these existing customers while trying to talk to these two new audiences we think could be lucrative without alienating and losing the older ones. That's a very common startup problem. Probably most of my customers are trying to do that. You own one market, but the other two are interesting.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So not only just pain points, but then the specific personas or ICPs. Yeah, you gotta definitely
map them out.
Target the main user persona, but then also a future persona that you want to grow into, like a market that you want to grow into. That's good.
That whole messaging strategy I showed you, I sometimes have several different versions for each of the different audiences. And I've had customers before go and target a whole new audience, build out an entire page for them, and realize that audience was just not lucrative and they have to scrap it. It's a real balancing act. It's very hard.
Okay. Yeah. So Adam here, you're putting in the icons. I noticed you used a plugin to remove the background, but I don't know if you realize that if you have the native AI feature in Figma, it has a remove background feature, which is amazing. Awesome. Yeah, it's better than I think Icons 8, which I use. Yeah, so FYI, if you guys don't know about that, it's even if you're like you have a headshot of a person and you're moving the background with like hairs and stuff, it just magically does it so well.
Yeah, I'm up to the third icon.
Yep.
To be honest, it's a bit cheesy, this last one. We'll see.
So you can prompt say, make it less cheesy. There you go. That's good.
Yeah, it's not introducing the blue. I might just go with this one for now.
Yeah.
Just because I could prompt for a while, and get moving.
Now, if you guys have seen the last video with Nick St. Pierre, you could use Midjourney to develop or have AI generate icons with the same type of style reference as well. So this is just what we're doing with ChatGPT. So pretty good. I mean, it's consistent with the colors. Oh, what's going on here?
The tool wrong.
Yeah, you can click on that blue AI button in the bottom. Sure.
The blue, yeah.
Yeah. You click on that.
I'll just stick to the thing.
Sure.
Time. Let's see. All right. Remove background.
Yeah.
All right. Now I can go back to the style guide and start adding all the other images. So I'm just adding the images first just to get a vibe.
Yep.
And then I can build the color palette and everything else, the typography around that. So yeah. Put that here.
And guys, imagery is so important. It it's the first thing that captures the eyes and then you draw to the headline and then the small bullet points in the paragraphs, right? That's kind of the hierarchy of going through content. So make sure that your content is amazing. You have no excuse now. You have the power of AI. But also, guys, look into Untitled UI if you are promoting SaaS apps, because this is beautiful. Love the use of the gradients of the background. That's really nice. I'm sure we could talk for hours just on how to frame and come up with a beautiful layout for the images alone. Yeah. I mean, you guys do such a great job with that.
Thank you. Yeah, all right, so just gonna add in these last icons. I don't love them, but I think they're good enough for now.
Yeah.
Let's just add that in. Cool.
You guys liking the tunes? Give us a like. Show us some love. All right, so interesting. I like how Alex is just trying out different headings here. And so I feel like you're feeling it out, hey? You're just kind of vibing with the messaging.
It's a lot like taking a piece of wood and carving it. So none of these headlines are going to get to a finished state. It's very much, you know, you see a big block, you start carving it down, you can see a rough shape of somebody, and then you start seeing details. Yeah, I mean, to get this super sharpened would take, you know, a day or two, but you can already see we've gone from a very basic headline to headlines that is starting to look a little bit more, they make sense. There's a bit more of a narrative emerging. What I want to do, if I had more time, is to carve each of these out and make them really unique to this product, to get more feelings, to get more emotions. One of the most important tips for copywriting, probably the most, is people skim read. So you have to write your pages. Imagine you take away all of a paragraph copy, your headlines alone should tell a complete narrative. That alone will change your copywriting. People should be able to skim down the page, just read the headlines, they've got a complete sales pitch. They don't need to read anything else. But you see people do things like have generic headlines like check out our features or about us. You should never write a headline that says about us. Your kicker might say about us. But if your about us section explains the values that define your company, build those values into the headline. The headlines should be really unique to your company. They should tell a clear narrative. And reading the paragraph copy, that's just optional. You don't have to do it.
Okay, can you zoom in on the kicker and tell me again more thought process behind this? So it seems like, the kicker can be, let's say even here, the problem. Like, is that okay as a kicker or even the solution? Is that like an overall high level description of the section? Again, tell me your thought process of how to best use this eyebrow or kicker text.
So I actually like to play around and have unique kickers. And I will sometimes summarize the problem in 2 to 3 words, but you can absolutely have a problem and the solution as kickers. There is nothing wrong with that at all. What will happen is people will barely even see that text written there. It just, your eyes just glaze over at it. So you can be creative with kickers, but you can just be super plain and boring and just say the problem, the solution, features. And it just, what it does is it helps the brain make sense of a headline even faster. As if you know that it's a problem section, your brain can make sense of the headline even more quickly. We're all about reducing cognitive load. Like when you go to the supermarket, right, and you're going shopping, and you could look around and think, am I in a biscuit aisle? Because I've got all these different biscuit brands. But you could just look up and it just says biscuits.
Okay, so
you don't even
basically,
think about it when you go shopping, right?
You use it like a label of a category, essentially.
Yeah, I do that. Sometimes I'm a bit more playful, but generally, just a category like that. Like you're going to the supermarket, you navigate the aisles, and you can shop on autopilot without even thinking about it because you know it just says biscuits above the aisle.
Now on the right side, this right wireframe, can you zoom in? You got simplify, focus. What do you think about that? Is that use?
I like that. That works. You just need to be consistent. So what they're doing there is they're using a verb. If you're going to use a verb, stick with a verb. When people start jumping around between verbs and nouns, it confuses people. But if you're just consistent and you say, okay, in each of these sections we're using a verb, that works nicely for me. On its own, focus is a bit of a buzzword, simplify is a bit of a buzzword. But if a headline underneath is more specific, then that works quite nicely.
Okay. So in terms of hierarchy, it's like almost like a one-word eyebrow or kicker, and then the heading kind of expands on that, and then the subheading or the body text further expands on that. Is that kind of how you would approach that?
Yeah, so the kicker is more of a category. It's more of a category.
Okay.
It's explaining what does this section do in plain, non-sexy, non-creative language. I sometimes inject a little bit of creativity into the kicker, but really not much. They should be plain English. And what it does, it then frees you up in the headline to be more playful, more imaginative, more creative.
Okay. Good to know. I'm always like wondering what I should fill in there, right? It seems, good to know the rules. At least according to your principles.
I wouldn't say rules, I'd say kind of principles, I'd say. You're free to like ignore any of it and do your own thing, but I find that works well.
Like, can you zoom in this one? Connect your calendar. So this is called feature A. So in this case, what would you put in here?
I would have, for example, get started maybe because it's my first one.
Okay.
And underneath here, we could have create a schedule, or maybe start your day perhaps.
So they're kind of like
anything.
CTAs.
Kind of, you're telling people it's some, these ones are slightly more I guess action oriented.
Yeah.
Um,
This is stay focused as problems happen and new opportunities emerge. So it's about focusing.
quite clunky. I need to sort of
Sure.
I need to play around with the language. The idea, the first one is telling people how easy it is to get started. So you could say, for
I
example,
see.
get started, connect your calendar, and build your first schedule. Um, prioritize the most valuable tasks in your business. So this is somebody starting out using using their schedule, achieve more perhaps. And then the next feature cluster is the ability for this app to evolve and to change their schedule as things happen. So we could have
No, this is great. I hope you guys are getting some value from this watching.
Connect your calendar. Sweet. So I guess I can start talking about some stuff that I'm doing over here.
Yeah.
All right. So I've kind of put together some rough idea on a color palette that works. I've gone for quite a minimal color palette here, just to play into the theme of it's meant to be simple. It's meant to simplify your life. It's meant to be something that makes your day feel effortless. Let's go back to the copy, I guess, as well. I think life gets messy. Let's make sure that this brand doesn't feel messy. And it feels like almost the opposite of that. So that's what I've gone for. In terms of the font, the actual UI uses Inter. So one thing that I've done here is I've liked Inter as a font, as a way to see into the classic, as a way to see what other fonts that are similar to Inter could work like. So I can basically just go through a list of fonts that are similar to Inter until I arrive at something. Another sort of approach that I could do, maybe if I wanted to go a little bit outside of Inter, because I think Inter's quite plain and simple, but something maybe with a little bit more personality, I could use a display font. And sort of just look at some of these display fonts have a little bit more personality, and sort of just like play around with what that could look like as well here. So I wouldn't mind something quite blocky and bold. So I'm going to try and find that now. There is a font that, I think this one, oh, that's quite bold. What if I knock that back? Yeah. I don't mind that. That adds a little bit more personality and differentiation. I'm going to give that one a like and see if I can find similar ones to this. I guess this is what they call vibe designing.
Yeah.
yeah.
This is what I'll know it when I see it looks like.
Yeah. I might just lock this down and just shuffle a bunch of times until...
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, that's actually quite nice.
Yeah. I feel like it needs to be more bold. You had, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good.
The boldness really depends on the font.
Yeah. No, it's too blocky. And I feel like because this is an organization and timekeeping app, it should be a little clean, you know. That's what I feel. With with plenty of white space, you're kind of like creating margin. It seems like, you know.
What's this one? Might run with that for now. Cool. All right. In terms of the buttons, I'm gonna go for round. And I might actually use this elevate button just because it sort of fits the vibe of the assets here as well. Sweet. Next up, we can look at the treatment for the cards. I might go for some like a bit rounded to fit the iconography here. I think that looks pretty good. And then in terms of the style of the cards, which there's only one card here. I have a couple of options. I might actually just go with this flat approach. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now I guess just going through the color schemes that I could choose, this is where I could vibe design as well. As I said though, I do want to make it minimal, but I'll explain some of the rationale. So basically I've used color here to group the testimonial and the feature section just because these testimonials should relate to the above. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to actually generate some of these testimonials for us and just make sure that it's relevant to the copy above. So I'm just going to add that into the prompt. Preview titles on its claims of staying on top of your small even when life gets busy. So then I'm just going to generate that. I'm sure we could tweak this, but this is a starting point. For this section, what I could do, I'm just going to duplicate this because I want to generate the copy and then take some of the copy that Alex has written as well, just to fill in the blanks because there's stuff that we haven't covered here. So the 3 problems would be 1, struggle, 2, Sensama, and 3, got it. So it's jumbled it up here. Let's regenerate. Again. I could tweak that prompt, but I'm just going to take this, add that here.
Cool to see how you prompt the AI. And is this using ChatGPT's LLM? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm sure Alex could write better copy here.
He'll just rip it apart.
Cool. I'm just gonna go with that. Let's see. This one needs to support.
And keep in mind, guys, when you're writing copy, especially in the body text, you don't want a whole paragraph. Do you have principles around that, Alex? And like, is it like 3 or 4 sentences max, or 1 to 2? Because like you said, people do skim through it. Like they read the heading first and then.
Are we talking about the feature section you're looking at just there, yeah?
Just body text in general. Like, is there a general rule? Like, do you avoid large paragraphs, or is it appropriate to have paragraphs? What's your take on that?
I typically I'll have 1 to 2 short paragraphs. I mean, there's paragraphs and there's paragraphs. The size that are generated in those are just about right. I typically have 1 of those. But what I would say is that I love feature bullets. So The purpose for paragraphs is the paragraph shouldn't have lots of technical details. The paragraph should tell a nice, easy to read story. And then having those feature bullets means you can shift the technical details into the feature bullets, and they don't bog down the story.
Now, how many sentences in that paragraph story, typically?
Maybe two. Probably two, yeah. Two short ones. I like to keep short, punchy sentences.
Nice.
And sometimes I might have a very short sentence at the start, and then a slightly longer one. One technique that Apple use that I really like, you'll see they often have, is you'll have a, particularly for technical products, if you go and look at, say, the page for maybe the Mac Pro or MacBook Pro, and if you spot the copy in the MacBook Pro is very different to the copy in the iPhone because it's a different audience, they'll have a tightly wrapped paragraph. And that tightly wrapped paragraph, the first 5 or 6 words tells you what that feature does in plain English, and the rest of the paragraph gives you all of the detail. But that first, try scrolling down if we can find a good example here. They pick out the key benefits in a high contrast color. Here you go. They've done a slightly, you see how they've basically got a massive slab of paragraph of loads of technical copy, but they've highlighted most advanced lineup of chips ever built for a pro laptop in a higher contrast color.
Yeah.
So a non-technical person can skim read. They can see the non-technical language. And if they're nerdy, they can read the rest of the paragraph. If they're not nerdy, they can keep going. It's all about the visual hierarchy. We've done the same thing here. Gaming feels more immersive and realistic than ever.
Wow.
That's emotional language. It's not technical language. But the technical language is there if you want to read it. So it's this hierarchy there over what you want to engage with, and you can pick and choose. Same thing again here.
Yeah.
So you can just read those white bits and you understand everything that's important, and you're free to then decide if you want to read the rest.
So that's for a MacBook Pro, and you said for a Mac Pro, it's a probably different thing.
Mac Pro is similar because they're both technical audiences. But if you take an iPad or an iPhone, the copy for that's really different because Mac Pros are used by creative professionals, whereas an iPhone or an iPad is used by people like your grandparents might use it.
Look at the big text here.
Yeah, completely different pitch, completely different language, way more playful, emotional language, much less technical language.
Here you
Just
go.
look at how simple those words are.
But the contrast again, like you said.
Same technique, but the language is just simpler as well. Much more visual, many more visual aids as well.
Yeah.
I love that mix of high and low contrast text. I do that a lot as well.
Yeah, this is nice. Big heading. And then you got 1, 2, 3 sentences, but that's like max. But then within that, you got your contrast. So that's advanced. That's pretty clever. 1, 2, 3. Seems like they have a 3-sentence limit. 1, 2 sentences.
They've got really tightly wrapped paragraphs there as well.
Yeah.
I like tight wrapping. A maximum 8 to 10 words. Really wide paragraphs are horrible to read.
Oh, I see. So you got to control the width, hey?
Yeah, really wide. So I've worked closely with one of Europe's top CRO experts, and he's always told me to wrap tightly. Wide paragraphs are really bad.
And it stays within the width of the main heading. So that's really cool.
And you can have your headings can be left aligned or centralized, but your paragraph copy should always be left aligned.
Okay. Now these are great tips. Yeah, very cool.
There's a lot to typography as well, and the intersection of typography for designers and typography for copywriters, that intersection has not dealt with anywhere. Copywriters don't know enough about typography as they should do, and a lot of designers aren't so good at copy, and that whole interplay between the two is really it's badly done in the industry. The industry has a big problem over the overlap between design and copywriting.
I'd love to dig into that. Can we dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, we've been doing that.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk. What are your thoughts around the typography that we should be using and how it works with the copy in general? I'm super intrigued by that.
I mean, I'm not a typography expert in that sense. I mean, what I mentioned there in terms of the, having tightly wrapped columns. For me, color is one of the ones I'm interested in. Contrast, having that mixture of high and low contrast we discussed as well. Lower contrast colors indicate copy that you may or may not want to read. Higher contrast indicates copy that you should definitely read. It's more benefit focused. And when I'm doing my my wireframes, I use grays. I don't use colors, just because the designer can then decide what colors to interpret that with. I'm just establishing hierarchy. But when copywriters are writing, I think copywriters should be thinking about that hierarchy, and you should be using a high contrast and a low contrast. So if you're on a white background, you should be using black or dark gray, and you should be using light gray too, just like Apple are doing here. I wouldn't rip Apple's copy. Apple's headlines are for a hyper mature brand. Everybody knows what an iPhone does. Apple's headlines are way too playful and take total camera control. They can get away with this stuff. You know, Apple's branding for the iPhone 15 was titanium. Apple's branding for the iPhone 16 was Apple Intelligence. If you look at the way that Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone 1 was, it's a widescreen touchscreen iPod. It's a breakthrough internet communications device, and it's a revolutionary mobile phone. It was a really messy pitch. Steve Jobs had to compare it to 3 pre-existing devices, which is an amazing pitch. But the way Apple presents a phone now, just using a couple of playful words, that doesn't work for startups. Too many startups are copying the iPhone 16. They should copy the iPhone 1. But I still think you can learn a lot from how Apple uses typography and color and that mixture of high and low contrast, for sure.
This is quite text heavy.
Nice.
But again, they're not going beyond 3 sentences. They're very meaty sentences, but they're not going more than 3 in per paragraph. So that's really, really cool to see.
And the crucial thing is they allow you to skim read, because you've picked out the most important value. The thing that summarizes the value of a whole paragraph is only 7 or 8 words. That's why you can get away with that whole rest of a paragraph, because you don't have to read it.
Yeah, nice. I love that. I'm going to try and apply that in Webflow. Gives me a little bit more control.
All right, we are uploading here into Webflow.
We are.
Walk us through. Okay, there you go. Let's jump in.
Yeah, cool. So it's in Webflow. I can publish the site, but I'm going to actually take some of the advice on board here. So what I would do at this point is just go to the paragraphs, and I might just like change the text color across the paragraphs. I might use a gray here for that. Just gonna make sure that is using normal. Cool. So now we have some distinction between the headings and the supporting copy here. In terms of the tagline, though, you know, maybe we can have a distinction there.
An accent color.
I think we call it tagline. Alex calls it the kicker.
Eyebrow.
Maybe we can, the eyebrow. Yeah, maybe we can look at like the eyebrow. Alex, so like what would you recommend coloring here? Would you keep it consistent with the heading, or would you
use the brand
I
color?
would highlight I would switch it to say a blue potentially.
Yeah.
If it was the headline was in blue, I'd keep that in black, but I wanted a slightly different color to my I put it gray so it floats behind, but I want something to indicate that it's a different class in some way and to keep it consistent.
Got it.
Make it pop. Make it pop.
Make it pop. I've just realized
Yeah.
I am missing a color, which I will import in. Let me just go over to my Figma.
Oh. Okay, so you're changing and adding it into the Reloom style guide. And
Yeah, I might just add it instead of re. Oh, actually, no, I could re.
You can just go to
I
the
might just. it'd
Yeah,
just
the
be quicker
variables.
If I add it here. Yeah.
settings and then just add it,
Just
right?
add it to here. Yeah.
There you go. I do love seeing this.
Actually, I might
It's
just go
just
back here.
adding a new color in real time.
I won't do the brand color exactly. I just do the shade up, which we call blue ribbon. Blue ribbon, dark. Awesome. Cool. So then for all the kickers, I'll make sure that that is blue ribbon. So that I could change per section, but I think keeping it consistent actually works pretty well.
Yeah, I like that.
Sweet. All right, how are we going for copy? Should we wrap this one up?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep, we're good.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've got the complete problem solution headlines for the walkthrough and a CTA. So we haven't got the paragraph copy, but we've got a complete narrative for the headlines, so we're good.
Awesome. I might just publish this one. We can refer to it in Webflow.
Yep.
So in terms of
Did
the
you
hero
read-
section,
What was the last thing you added, Alex? Just out of curiosity, so I can update.
I've got down for CTA, which I've got try time hero for free, plan a better work week.
Where can I find that?
it's under the
CTA,
testimonial.
right. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've got that. Yeah, that should be sweet.
So you copy it from Realoom
Awesome.
and then you can then paste it back into Webflow.
Yeah, cool, awesome. All right, so let's go through. This is what we've
Nice.
got.
Okay.
You know what? This is annoying me. I would just want to make this a bit bigger. One sec.
Yeah, I would have a line break after business. If we can do that.
Yeah. A line break after business, so here.
Can we do that? Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Now it's left justified, I think, or what's going
Can
on
we
here?
throw in a small kick? Are we allowed to add a small kicker to this?
Yeah, man. We can do what you want. Let's do that.
Small business scheduler? Just a small kicker for small business scheduler.
Sounds good. Let me just get this in a spot.
And again, for anybody interested in
kicker.
SEO, you could set that to an SEO H1 if you wanted to.
Now you can look at
Yeah, so
the structure here in
actually
Webflow.
that's what I'll do. So I'll just go Hero H1, and then I'll go text style. You call it a kicker, we call it a tagline. But
Yeah.
actually baked into this should be one rem.
It's quite a divisive
Go
topic.
update one.
I like kicker because it sounds more impactful. This is a good example where stay on top of your small business even when life gets messy. From an SEO perspective, that's junk. That's not at all helpful for SEO, but it's more emotional. And this is where we have this conflict between conversion and user experience versus SEO. And the phrases that people are typing into their search engine aren't necessarily the phrases we want in the headlines, but this whole tactic of using the kicker and giving it an upgraded SEO class means we can have our cake and eat it, to use an English expression.
Nice.
Awesome. What did you want? Sorry, what did you want to put in the kicker?
We could just say something like small business scheduler. You could have AI small business scheduler. Just shamelessly target an SEO keyword there. Something like that. I think it works, small business scheduler. Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Cool.
Neat.
Could also, yeah. All right, let's
There's nothing
publish that.
creative
And-
about that at all. It's just functional.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I like it. All right. We're live.
Refresh. Boom.
Oh, that looks so much better. Cool.
Nice.
Let's go from the top.
Stay on top of your small business even when life gets messy. CTA, build a schedule, or learn more. Okay, I want to scroll down. Obviously, this is, you know, you got an image above the fold here, so it teases me to take a look. Beautiful graphic. All right. So scrolling down.
looks
And
What
so,
are your
Nice.
thoughts on the learn? What are your thoughts on the learn more here?
I wanted
Would
to
you
come up to
drop
this,
that
so
or keep it?
great question. So CTAs, I often have a pair. So the question comes down to how high risk is our primary CTA? If your primary CTA is as high risk as give me $10,000, you definitely want a secondary CTA that's lower risk. So it could be, yeah, your primary is high risk, your secondary is low risk. In this case, build your first schedule or build a schedule's fairly low risk. So I'll be quite comfortable having someone just have that as a CTA. I wouldn't have learn more. I would have maybe watch a video, but build a schedule works well
Okay.
because we're not really asking someone to risk much time or money.
now that's clear.
You-
That's really nice.
What you can
It's
also
balanced.
do, we don't necessarily have to do this, for more risk mitigation, you can have a piece of subtext underneath that says no credit card required. That's quite handy.
Nice. Underneath the CTA.
Yep, no credit card required. But people have to remember as well, the two things that business people are worried about are money and time. And a lot of the time, business people are more worried about time. So if I've got, for example, book a demo, I often say book a 15-minute demo.
Oh, that's
so-
so good.
Business owners don't want to get suckered into an hour. If you know it's a 15-minute demo and only a 15-minute demo and you can do it over your lunch break, don't ever risk wasting a business owner's time. Make it clear you won't waste their time.
Now that's gold. Do not waste their time and help them save their money.
Yep. So this is what we call risk mitigation here.
So you go margin small. That's nice. Yeah, that's good spacing. That's great. I like that.
Nice.
Clean.
All right, let's move on. Then we have our logos, which I haven't added, but we would have some company logos here. Then we have a testimonial, which I got AI to write. Keen to get your thoughts on the best way to, I guess, outside of it needing to relate to the headline, like what are there any other tips around testimonials? And you know, although they should come
So
from
just
the
to answer
customer.
this quick question, a couple of your people here have pointed out we've actually got centralized text for the customer quotes and for the copy directly underneath headlines. For explainers, you can get away with having those centralized. Having explainers centralized can work. For feature sections, I would always have those left aligned, just to make that clearer. When it comes to the customer testimonials, the biggest issues are dumping lots of them together, but also people have really long customer testimonials. You want the shortest, punchiest, hyper-edited testimonials possible. You don't want to drag people through 2 paragraphs. You want to make one simple point that's really relevant to the sales pitch. I keep like a bank of customer testimonials that are chopped up, edited, and tagged as well. That customer testimonial is great. It's really short, it's emotive, it's easy to skim read. If it's long, people just skim past and they don't read them. Also,
Awesome.
pictures are really important. Having a picture is proven to improve engagement as well. So I like that testimonial a lot.
Sweet. Well, I think, what are your thoughts? Something that I sometimes consider is like, if this is going to be a product for solopreneurs, trying to have someone that's like known by that community is like
100%.
an added, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I
Then we
think I
have-
would always lean more towards having people who are relatable as opposed to people who are impressive. Trying to impress people with credentials, I don't think is as effective as maybe that's someone like me but slightly above me. It's somebody I'd like to be. If somebody's 2 rungs above me, that's aspirational. If someone's 10 rungs above me, they're the CEO of IBM, I don't even relate to that person. They're not relevant to me.
Relatable. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. All right.
This is
then we have
nice.
problem. It's okay. I'm not loving the icons, to be honest. I'd probably want to spend some more time exploring different
Yes.
treatments, but
Compared
yeah,
to the
it was-
typical icons,
took me 2
this is
minutes.
pretty good. It's pretty good.
They work for now. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, this is the problem. We've kind of looked at that one. Then we have the solution, which is like the overarching sort of description, the claim, which is meant to reinforce the hero section here, or the claim made in the hero section?
Yeah, so I haven't written that one yet, but exactly that. So you provide the overall value proposition in a headline, and then the explainer underneath fleshes it out with slightly more, with a couple of features perhaps to back it up and make it sound more credible. So the example I often use, if you imagine in boxing, you've got a jab and a cross. You know, a jab is a very quick, fast punch that stuns somebody. A cross is a slower punch that knocks them out. Your headline is like a jab. It grabs somebody's attention, but the explainer underneath is got the knockout power. That's got more features. It's got a little bit more information that makes it sound and feel credible.
That's a good analogy.
So again, we've just got the headline here. Yep. Connect your calendar and build your first schedule. And you can see here, I would build out the technical features into those 3 bullets underneath. And that then means that paragraph of copy underneath, that I've not had time to write yet, we would stick with more of a narrative, flesh out and explain how we help them to connect their calendar, how we help them to build their first schedule. But the nerdy technical details, pop those down into the bullets for people who care about those.
Got it. Yeah, and I would update these as well. Just probably maybe ticks could work, or something that represents the feature.
I've actually got some authority there. So my friend, who's a high-level CRO consultant, they've actually tried testing ticks against custom emojis. Ticks actually convert better than custom emojis. A lot of people are doing custom emojis, and I think the answer is that ticks are just easier to make sense of. People try and be too clever with design, and most of the time keeping things simple and repetitive actually works better than being clever.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to try and find a tick.
And so your data shows and proves that these little things actually do help convert.
Yeah, it's not going to be a difference between your business IPOing or not, but it's like, the ticks definitely have a small improvement over the emojis. The emojis confuse people a bit. As an anecdote here, one of my friends is a guy you probably know called Peter Levels, who runs nomadlist.com. He asked me, can I give him some tips? I told him to add feature bullets to his hero section for Nomadlist. He's added 5 feature bullets. His actually use emojis, telling people 5 use cases for Nomadlist. He got 400% more conversions.
Wow,
it's crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
I love feature ticks. Feature ticks or use case ticks, either one of the two.
Sweet. So I'm just replacing those.
Use case ticks. What's that?
I call them feature ticks, but you can use them for features or use cases, either one of the two, or a combination of both.
Okay.
Telling people what the feature is and or what they can do with it. You can also combine social proof into them as well.
Yeah.
Do this with this feature and include a data point as well that shows how effective it is. Again, that's if you're a mature startup. Most people can't do that.
And would changing the text to green help at all, or doesn't really matter?
Don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, testing for like budding color testing is famously sort of not that useful a thing to do, contrary to popular belief. Contrast is more important than colors. Like, you can't say if orange is better than blue because it depends on the background color.
Right. Or if they're blue check marks to blend with the brand color, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. So then we have the next feature section, which what's the rationale behind this one?
This one here is you've actually got because I haven't got enough features to work with. This is, you've got your main scheduler here, so you can focus on the most valuable tasks in your business. First one's getting set up. This one is you've got your schedule in front of you, and it's telling you what to do with your day, basically. I would have feature ticks underneath that explain this is your schedule, these are the different things you can do in your day. It might talk through your task prioritization. Maybe you've got color coordinated tasks, but this is basically the main feature cluster for actually using your scheduler. We're just missing a bit of paragraph copy. And this one is the, I need to play around with this more, but basically you're going to have the AI adaptation. So as this is the main feature we had to differentiate our product against the competition is as your day changes and things happen, the product evolves and it changes your schedule to keep up.
Nice. Then we have a supporting testimonial, supporting the above claim, and then the CTA. Talk us through the CTA.
So yeah, just 2 short sentences. For proposition, try Time Hero for free. That's what we're asking them to do. Plan a better work week, what they get out of it. So it's an invitation and a promise for what they get for doing it. So it's low. It's low risk. It's free. There's no cost involved, and they get something out of that. Yeah, plan a better work week.
Love it. Awesome. I think that's it. I think that's
Beautiful.
Probably time. Thanks so much for walking us through the thinking, Alex. I personally have learnt a bunch, and I think, I mean, I wish we could spend more time and get all the copy done. But I think what we've been able to achieve is pretty awesome, and I'd love to put this to the test, and test this against what my attempt at copy could look like versus your attempt at copy.
I mean, for reference, I'd normally spend 2 or 3 days on a homepage. So considering, I think we got a lot done in
That's
an hour
great.
and a half.
Nice.
Amazing.
I love that.
And
Love how
again,
deep
this
you
is so
go.
cool to see you two collaborate together in real time with the design and copywriting. You're just cutting down the time to produce this beautiful page. So hope this inspires you guys. Give us a like. Thanks for joining us live. Alex and Adam, do you guys have any final words before we wrap up?
let
Just to
Alex
say
go
thanks very
first.
much for checking in. And my main tip for anybody in this space at the moment, particularly with the rise of AI and how easy it is for people to build products, we're competing in a really crowded marketplace. You have to focus on differentiation. Always remember, whenever you're writing your homepage, somebody looking at buying your product has probably got 5 or 10 tabs lined up. Always focus on differentiation. Always give people reasons to close those tabs and point to the problems with those products. You don't have to name drop the competitor. You can just talk about the general problems of everybody else's and make it clear why your product is the best choice, maybe just for that particular audience persona, for that particular segment. You have to differentiate if you want to win in today's market.
Love it.
Love
That's
it.
great.
And where can people find you, Alex, if they want to learn more from you?
You could go to alexnapierholland.com for my personal website, gorillaflow.com for my agency website, and you can follow me on Twitter at napierholland. And feel free to shoot me any questions either via email, alex@gorillaflow.com, or you could just message me. You can DM me on Twitter, as long as you aren't trying to sell me lead generation services.
Fantastic.
Nice. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on the stream, man. I've had a good time, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share your knowledge with the rest of the community.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed being here, and we
Appreciate
both got the same mission, so it's been really it's really exciting. There's this crazy wave at the moment, and we either stay on the wave or you fall off. At this precise moment, we're staying on it, and hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll see you in the next stream. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Cheers, guys.